And you are listening to the Ask the Experts radio show on Talk Radio 1190. I'm John Wolf, and I have with me our usual guest at this time from Texas Green Plumbing, texasgreenplumbing.com, Roger Wakefield. We also have Roger Williamson of williamsonfoundation.com, williamsonfoundation.com. The Texas Green Plumbing phone number, their number is 972-442-4101, 972-442-4101. And rather than give a list of phone numbers while you're driving, again, williamsfoundation.com is the easy name to remember for Roger Williamson. And we're talking both about foundations and plumbing today and how they work together.
See how I'm on.
Roger Wakefield, what does it mean if you see cracks in the wall, maybe not giant ones, but slight cracks in the wall when you're taking a look at a house?
Slight cracks, little cracks, you can see separation. You can see it's almost like a hairline crack. That happens. That's just general movement of a house. Once I start walking in and I can see that sheetrock is separating, there's separation in the tape and bed. You can see a crack big enough that you can actually see on the wall, things like that. I understand then that there are bigger issues than just a little leak under the house, or that little leak has been there a long time and led to more serious problems. I'm more worried about the people than I am, the house or me or anything like that. So I want to make sure that my deal is, to me, looking at it from a plumber's point of view, the foundation probably needs to be taken care of first. The reason being is if I go in and fix the plumbing, say I go in, like Roger said, and I go in and find a sewer leak and I fix it, and we tunnel in or make a hole in the floor, we fix everything back up, everything's good, they call him, have him come out. Now they've got to stick 24 piers around the house, bring it up 2 inches in one area, half an inch in another. Then we go back and test it again. There's a leak again. Maybe we dig right past where we just dug to fix that leak. Or maybe we don't go in as far. But my thing is, if the foundation is repaired first, you only have the plumber out there one time and everything's fixed right, and you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
Roger, what do you think?
Exactly. Oftentimes we get that question a lot from homeowners. Which one do I do first? And we always recommend doing the foundation first, and that's not self-serving. It's because if Roger Wakefield goes in and fixes a pipe, and then we go and move the foundation 2.5 inches, we may unfix that pipe because we've changed the geometry of everything under the house at this point. So we always recommend that they do the foundation first, fix the leak second, unless we're looking at a house that we believe the leak is the predominant problem with the foundation. And oftentimes we'll recommend fix the leak. Let's give it a year to dry out, a year to settle down. Let's reevaluate it and see if it's going to need any additional help from a foundation repair standpoint or not. Oftentimes they don't. Oftentimes fixing the leak takes care of the problem.
If I could throw in one that I ran into, and it's really still an ongoing situation. Behind the house I was living in, there was a slab that was not part of the house slab. It was a built-on porch. And a crack developed. It was about the width of a pencil some days, and some days it was a little wider. Never the width of 5 pencils, but maybe a pencil and a half thickness.
Yes.
And a neighbor who was in the construction field for 40 years said, I'd wait till summer and see if the dryness closes it up, or maybe it was wait till the winter and see if the moisture closes it up. And since I didn't feel like cutting a check for $5,000, not knowing what it was going to do, and since it wasn't part of the foundation, I did nothing, which seemed like the thing to do at the moment.
Yeah.
Any recommendation? Now, maybe it was caused by a leak. Maybe it was also caused by roots of a tree. I did bring in a couple of arborists, excuse me, and they really gave me no information that was useful whatsoever.
Yeah.
So nothing was done except that I made a lot of appointments all around.
Right. Well, it most likely, if it was a patio slab outside the house, it most likely had nothing to do with plumbing, because it's very unlikely that the plumbing was running under that slab, in most cases at least. Flat work concrete, such as patios, driveways, pool decks, things like that, are much thinner and much less reinforced than the slab of your house, but they are subjected to the same amount of soil movements, and in some cases more soil movements, because it's a relatively small piece of concrete, so it's got the soil around it kind of in a closer area. If it's not very thick, if it's not very well reinforced with steel rebar or post-tension cables, it's going to crack. It's kind of the nature of concrete, which is why you see cracks in your garage floor, in your driveways and sidewalks. Concrete's a very brittle material once it cures. The only thing that gives it any kind of flexibility is either the steel rebar or the cable that's inside of it. So a little bit of movement and it's going to crack, and that's pretty common. The only way to really combat that is to try to water around it, which is what I would have told you, is let's put a soaker hose around this patio and water pretty heavily and see if we can swell those soils to push that thing back up together. And that's about the only thing you could have done short of replacing it.
Right.
You talked about watering that patio. What do you recommend for watering around a foundation? If somebody sees very small cracks in their house, is there anything they can do preventative maintenance?
Absolutely. A lot of times we do look at houses that we're doing inspections, and they've got a relatively small degree of movement, a half inch, maybe a 3/4 inch drop at the perimeter. And we'll oftentimes tell them, you can probably bring this back yourself with a heavy watering program, where you place soaker hoses usually around the entire house. If you're just trying to concentrate on one area that has moved, you may only focus on that area. But the soaker hoses need to be 8 to 12 inches away from the house, not right up against it. And we typically water, 2-3 times a week for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. If we're trying to bring an area up, we might water that area every day for the first week or maybe even 2 weeks to really try to saturate that soil, and then go back to 2 or 3 days a week. On our website, we have a section called Education, and there's some videos there. You can also find them on YouTube on foundation watering, and it's a video segment that explains and shows exactly how to use soaker hoses to water your foundation. And yes, watering your foundation is a real thing, people. It really is. If you just moved here from upstate New York, trust me, water your foundation. It is critical for foundation stability.
You're probably wondering where the stairs are down to the basement if you just move from
Yes.
What do you mean there's no basement or a cellar?
And this is why we don't have basements in North Texas and in most of Texas, is because of these soils. It's very expensive to build a basement that isn't going to be destroyed by the amount of soil movement and the force of the soil movement that we have.
Oh, I thought it was just that the ground was so hard here that nobody wanted to dig through it because of the cost of having to do that.
No, it's simply the soil movement. A lot of large commercial projects, multi-story commercial office buildings, do have basements. And usually those basements are only parking structures because it's very hard to keep them from cracking and having water from the soils leach into them and everything else. You rarely find finished floor areas below ground here in Texas.
I actually got to work on the new Parkland Hospital before I opened my own company. And you're right, about 30 feet deep, we're laying pipe and sewer lines and water distribution system underground. The exterior of the building has a subsurface drainage system with rock, felt, everything like that to help keep it.
It has to.
You bet. And the whole purpose of that, it also, not only does it help keep the water away from the building, but with all the pea gravel and stuff, there's a little bit of room for movement.
Right.
So if the soil does expand and contract, it squeezes the rocks together a little bit.
Right.
It doesn't affect the structure.
It's called a crush zone. That's
go.
exactly what it's designed for, to allow that soil to a place to move without affecting the structure of the building. But to do that on a residential property, it gets very you're going to spend way more on the foundation than you spend on the rest of the house, and it almost doesn't matter how much you spend on the rest of the house. So
Now, on more expensive residential homes, is there a different type of piping, different kind of layout or something than you would see when I don't know if tract home is too low a term, but your typical suburbs, house next to house next to house?
The plumbing's not going to be different. The plumbing itself, you've got your sewer line in, your sewer line out, or your water line in, your sewer line out. The real difference might be the size of the water line. It's not really the piping's not any different. It's ran the same. Different plumbers, I tell people plumbing's very forgiving. We could take, like you say, a high-end house in University Park and plumb it. And if you got 50 different plumbers, they could plumb it 50 different ways. Mm-hmm. It could still all be right. It could still all be legal, and it could all still work forever. Now, and I believe that I've heard you talk before about a foundation watering system.
Yes.
Don't you have something in place for that?
Yes, we actually designed one because we were asked for years to kind of consult when sprinkler system companies were putting in foundation watering systems for customers of ours. And they asked us, is this right? Is this wrong? And sometimes it was right and sometimes it wasn't. And so we actually did develop our own foundation watering system that we install and design. We're licensed irrigators now because of that.
Is there any advice you would give to someone who did not have a sprinkler system and was going to get one put in?
Yes, if you're going to do a foundation watering system, whether it's an addition to your existing sprinkler system or a system by itself, a couple of problems that we see out there is you don't want to use the readily available drip pipe because that's designed to give excess water for plants. Plants need more water than the soil can hold so that they can take the water from the soil. We want to go with about a 1/4 inch per hour drip line or less because that's how much the soil can absorb, is about a 1/4 inch per hour. And it needs to be buried at least 18 inches deep, not 4 or 5 inches.
Okay, I wish I'd known this before. Now, this is why I didn't have the prize-winning roses. I
There
had
you
the
go.
wrong drip system. It had nothing to do with my abilities with the soil. Again, we are speaking with both Roger Wakefield and Roger Williamson. Roger Wakefield, the owner-operator, founder of Texas Green Plumbing. You can look to we haven't even touched on this, all the helpful videos on TexasGreenPlumbing.com. They've also got Facebook and all sorts of social media. Their number, 972-442-4101. We're also speaking with Roger Williamson of WilliamsonFoundation.com. And I'm John Wolf with you on the Ask the Experts radio show on Talk Radio 1190.